Okay, so we're now recording. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today at the B2C Marketer Group London. Today we're going to be talking about Datarama and automated reports. So my name's Kerry Townsend. I work at Accenture. I've been working with Marketing Cloud for a good few years now, and I co-host this group with Jimson.
Hi everyone, so I'm Jimson Lee. I'm with Cloud Analysts. I'm the Marketing Cloud SME, subject matter expert for Cloud Analysts, and we're happy to have all you guys show up today.
Okay, so so the agenda today is we're doing the welcome, then we've got a couple of announcements of things that we think that you'll be potentially interested in that's either happening or online or within the community. And then we're going to hand over to Simen for the main event, where he's going to talk to us about Datarama, which is a topic that I'm particularly interested in because I haven't had a lot of exposure to the tool, and it's always best to be shown that by someone that actually uses it on a day-to-day basis, and we're excited to actually see a demo, so we'll be actually in the product as opposed to a selection of interesting slideware. And then, depending on how much time we have at the end, which I hope we will, we'll be able to get into some discussion and some questions, and then we'll wrap up. Okay, so this is just to give you some orientation about where you find us in this setting. So we have a community on the trailblazer.salesforce.com, or what was success.salesforce.com, and that is I think under there it's actually called the Marketing Cloud User Group, but we look to post about the events that are coming up. We look to post about the recording and any other updates. So if you want to find out what's happening with this group in between the actual meetings, then please go and join that group and feel free to get involved, share content and ask questions. And then, as Jimson said, we also have a YouTube channel where we're putting the recordings. We endeavor to get those up within the 24 hours after the session, but depending on how much trouble we potentially have with the recording, that does or doesn't happen. But I think I checked on there recently and our number of subscribers have gone up. So if you are interested in that content, then please subscribe. And then equally, we have a Twitter handle. And again, I try to put out the announcements of when these meetings are going to happen and share content. So if you are a Twitter user, then that's also a useful place to go. And then Jimson, you're going to talk us through some quick highlights.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. Yeah, I'll take about 5 to 7 minutes to go through over some of the highlights. Now, as you know, Marketing Cloud has 5 releases a year, not 3, and we're still playing catch up with the May release. And one of the big highlights of May was the journey pause, or pause journey. And that to me is a huge, huge feature that just got released today on July 16, which is now GA. It was meant to be end of June, and then it got pushed off, and I can confirm that on my stack, S50, it is now live, as well as S10, S11. The reason why it's important is because previously, there was no option to temporarily pause a running journey. Instead, users had to stop the journey and then recreate it later. Stopping a journey removes the context from that journey. So as a result, the user or the consultant had to decide whether to remove the contact and to complete a new version of the journey later, or not complete the journey at all. Now, if you ever seen my org, you'll see that I use the old V number, version number, and I've had version like double digits because I'm constantly stopping, recreating a new one, and you got to be careful because sometimes you can miss a few things. I miss sometimes the wrong data entry source on the next journey, and then nothing works. So to me, that is live. I highly recommend you check it out. That's Pause Journey. The other release just came out this July, and it will be released from July 25th to August 1st, depending on your stack number. And there are 2 great resources for this. One on the link here is the Salesforce official webinar on August 6th at 5 p.m. our UK time. They use the On24 webinar package, not Zoom, not Google Hangouts, not GoToMeeting, not GoWebinar, but On24. So that is kind of tricky to use if you haven't used it. I highly recommend you use that. It is an hour and a half of your time, and if you don't want to, watch a long video, I highly recommend a great blog post by Jason Court. He's also one of the writers on howtosfmc.com, and I recommend reading that highlight if you prefer to read the highlight notes. So that's for July. But the biggest feature of July, and the biggest warning that caused a lot of ruckus in our user groups and our WhatsApp groups and Slack groups, was the whole MFA, the multi-factor authentication. It's not a big deal, honestly, because if you have a phone, which we all have a phone, just download the Salesforce Authenticator app, which I've done on another client project, and it's just like Okta, it's just like any other MFA app. You enter your code, 6-digit code, I think, 6 digits, and you're good to go. So unless you're running single sign-on with Salesforce CRM, just get the app and download it. It's no big deal, nothing to panic about anyway. At least that's my opinion. One more point, next slide, Carrie. One more slide, just.
Yep, no, it's coming. It's coming. Just a little bit slow on the uptake there.
Yeah, these Google Sheets, Google slides are a challenge. So I know we have a lot of consultants here in this group. I know we have a lot of core CRM people, a lot of smart people here. And I really want to point out this new Marketing Cloud Lightning Web component. Now, this one's really exciting because the Marketing Cloud had Marketing Cloud out in Indianapolis and worldwide had a contest to see who can create the best app. And I'm not going to show this video, but there's a great video on the bottom of the link. It's 2.5 minutes long, and I really recommend that. They finally built, I wouldn't say a connector, but an app that can actually pull your contact, leads, accounts, even cases, and even personal accounts. And you can even view that in your Salesforce. And it's free, and it's almost open source because they're waiting the security to have that in GitHub. And there's even a setup guide in that link, a quick document. So everything you need to know to set up Lightning Web Components is all here. Highly recommend it. I can see a great future for this feature if you're a good core user. One caveat, and that's the very last slide I have. And my very last slide, and it's coming, is that to learn about Lightning Web Components, it is a super badge, and it is 14,000 points on Trailhead. Highly recommend it. It's a lot to learn, but really, this is the place to learn about Lightning Web Components. And if you have time, do this badge. And if you want some examples, some case studies on how it works in Marketing Cloud, I'm happy to give you some examples to see how some of my past projects has caused me grief with the connector, with MCC. And if you can create a package, great. If you want to make it public, freeware, or Ohanaware, great. If you want to sell it, even better. So something for you guys on the core side. On that note, that is it for my quick update for July. And I think I will hand it over to Simen, who will speak on Datarama.
Oh, hang on a second. We've got one more. Sorry, Jimson, I've got one more. One more update there. Just snuck it in just to break that flow. So we have. You'll have noticed that there are a lot of webinars. Thank you for taking the time this evening to actually join us in this particular webinar. And recently, we now have the Technical Marketers Monthly. And I'm pretty sure it was called Technical Marketers Monthly. And now I think I saw recently that it's actually Technical Marketers Bi-Monthly. So there are 2 of these every month now. The last one was on Journey Builder and Path Optimizer. And the recordings, a presentation and a recap are available, of which there are links here, and the slides will be available after, so you can find those. There's also a session called Lookup Answers, and the last topic for that was reply message management or reply mail management. And that recording should be out in the next couple of days. I did check just before this session and it wasn't available yet, so do look out for that. And then the next session in terms of the Technical Marketers Monthly is going to be on Social Studio, the data and integrating with the API. So again, that's going to be another really sort of content-rich session that you're definitely not going to want to miss. And now we jump slightly ahead, but we're getting on to the main event. Simen is going to talk to us about Datarama and the automated reporting and give us his insight into when or we should use just dashboards or automated reporting. And I'm particularly interested in this session because we're actually going to step into the tool. So Simen, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Kerry. Almost feel a bit embarrassed looking at that picture now. After 4 months of lockdown, I'm looking considerably more scruffy than in the more civilized times. But yeah, I am Simen. I work for the Seven Stars, which is a London-based UK agency, the biggest independent media agency in the UK. I worked there for about 6 years as a data analyst across a few different disciplines, but I specialize in sort of dashboarding and similar reporting. And for those purposes, we generally use Datorama. I kind of assume that that people's experience and time spent in Datorama probably varies a lot in the group here. So I've tried to make sure that there's something for everyone, so that there's something that some bits are about Datorama as a platform, and also some bits that I just consider best practices when it comes to dashboarding in general. So hopefully there'll be something useful for most people. Now, Datorama is a platform, it's a reporting platform where you can pull in all your different data sources that typically it's used for marketing purposes. It doesn't have to be. You can put all sorts of different data sets here, as we'll see in a bit, because for what I want to say is obvious reasons, I can't use actual client data in here. But I want to use a real data set. So what I have used is a data set of the books that I read, which is something that I actually do record and put into a dashboard, although I normally use Data Studio. I did show that dashboard to a friend of mine a few years ago, and she said, Simen, don't ever show that thing to a girl if you want to date her. Now I happen to have a girlfriend, believe it or not, so if everyone could keep quiet about this thing existing, that would be very great. So what sets Datorama apart from a lot of other similar platforms is the amount of different data sources that you can pull in. So when you want to create a data stream, you have so many options. So you have literally 156 different connectors. So when you scroll through here, all these are different data sets that you can connect to. A lot of these logos I assume you'll recognize. Some of them you probably don't. But every single one of them is an acceptable data source for Datorama. So you can pull in data from all the different platforms and put it in the same place, which, like I said, that's where Datorama really stands apart for me, is how easy it is to pull all sorts of different data in. And even if your data isn't part of this long list of suppliers, you can use these Total Connect and Live Connect option, which are more sort of flexible solutions where you can put standalone data sets and data sets that you have saved locally, and pretty much anything. So when it comes to actually building the dashboards, I attended a very interesting webinar a couple of months ago where a woman in Canada called Daria Voronova spoke about different types of dashboards, about executive, analytical, and operational dashboards. Operational dashboards are very rare, so I'm not going to touch on that. But executive and analytical dashboards are interesting, especially the distinction between the two. Most dashboards that you build will be analytical, so they will be for people who want to dive into the data, and I've built a sort of example of that here. But again, rather than using actual marketing data, which would normally be the case, I've used the books that I read. So for the time being, I'm just going to need you to kind of pretend like this is an interesting data set in any way, which obviously it isn't. But think of this as sort of transferable for marketing purposes. I've built here what I would describe as an analytical dashboard because it has visuals that are built for drilling into, and it has a lot of interactivity, and it has some top line numbers here. So in this case, this is data from the start of 2016 onwards, books I've read, pages, average and median publishing year, book length, and pages per day. I am Norwegian, so sometimes I read books in my native language, sometimes I read them in English, so I split that out here. And the purists among you may notice that I've put a donut chart in, and based on that, you might very reasonably decide that I should not be taken seriously, which I can't really blame you for. Donut charts and pie charts aren't very good. But I've put it in here just to kind of showcase it's an option, but I would describe it as bad practice. Normally a bar chart does a better job. Actually a couple of years ago at my company, I held a talk where I spoke about visualization best practices. I mentioned that pie charts are not a good practice, and even to this day, in some quarters, I am known as the pie chart guy. So if you have trouble remembering my name, then you can refer to me as the pie chart guy. But anyway, what's really good about these types of dashboards is that it allows people to investigate. So if you're building a dashboard for a client who is relatively data savvy, who is involved in decision making and needs to stay informed about what's going on, and needs to be able to investigate what's going on, then these are really handy. So you would build some sort of top line breakdowns, which would normally be around stuff like platform, creative, campaign. If we're using marketing data, it would be language and the genre if we're looking at the books I read. And then obviously you can filter down. So if you just want to look at the English language books, how does that look like in terms of publishers, in terms of authors? Just look at English non-fiction books, and you can see which authors I've read the most of. And yeah, that kind of allows for an investigative element to it. A lot of clients will also be very interested in timeline comparison. So either month on month or typically year-on-year data. And Datorama have quite a few different options for that. So this is a year-on-year chart showing 2020 versus 2019 in terms of how many pages I've read at any given time. Normally, you'd probably track something like conversions instead. And the line here is the percentage change. And again, you got some interactivity here. So if you want to switch from pages to books, you can do that. I did. I'm considerably more ahead. And if you want to change the time period you're comparing to, at the moment we're comparing year to date to last year. But if we want to look at 2018 instead, you can apply that. And see that I'm even further ahead on my reading than I was at this point 2 years ago. Well done, me. Then another sort of purpose for an analytical dashboard could be a lookup. This would typically be in the cases of creatives, because creatives can be very sort of anonymously named in the platforms where we pull the data from. So if a client wants to know the actual creative attributes of a particular creative, then we can pull those attributes in here. And even if it's a video creative and you want the client to be able to watch it, you can actually embed it into the page. That obviously doesn't apply here. And it would require you to have the actual URL of where that video is hosted. But you could embed that into the page so the client could look at that creative and actually see it here. So I've very deliberately set the default here to a Kafka book in order to make myself seem very well read. And you're right, that is not demonstrative at all. But just to kind of search for something else, you can look at a different one and you get the attributes. So now you see the author, language, genre, etc. And in a in the case of a creative, you would typically see these are the sites that it ran on. This is the timeline that it was live. And in an ideal world, here's what the actual creative looked like, as well as the performance, of course. So that's really handy to be able to scroll through all the different items in a particular data set, and be able to look them up that way. The final thing about analytical dashboards that can be handy are just the table. This was, in my experience, a lot of clients will ask for this just right at the beginning of a project. They just want the data, and they say they just want it in the table so that I can look at it. But really, obviously, you're not properly taking advantage of the platform in that case, and without sort of being patronizing, I think that might be a case of the famous Henry Ford quote that if I asked the people what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses. And tables can be handy, but I like to put them either at the bottom of the page or on a separate page, the proper dashboard, because with proper visuals, you can actually investigate what's going on, and you can make it a proper analytical sort of entity, as opposed to what is effectively a spreadsheet. But it is handy to include nevertheless, but just make sure that the interactivity is still there. So you can still filter it by whatever you want to, and you can include whatever data you want to. So if you just want to look at, say, pages and books by, oops, apologies. That's what happens when you go full screen. Yeah, let's say you just want to look at pages and books by publisher, then you can do that this way, and it loads super quickly, so that's handy. And sometimes you do need to export data, and Datorama do have those options, so you can export any widget that you want. So if it's a chart you want to export, you probably want that as a PNG or as a PDF. If it's a table like this, you can do it with an Excel file or a CSV, and then you can export it and kind of manipulate it within Excel if it's open. So it's good to have that option in my experience, even though the more dashboard led elements should be the main focus. So that's kind of the analytical dashboards for the people who investigate data, who need to be a little bit into the nitty gritty. But sometimes you'll obviously be working with people who either maybe a bit more senior, maybe they're rather busy in their day job, or maybe they're just not that data savvy. In which case, you know, they might find it tricky to, not tricky necessarily, but they might find it difficult to find a time to log into Datarama in order to actually drill into the data themselves. So that's where the automated reporting comes in, and that's kind of, well, I would say when we're talking about executive dashboards, which is what we're talking about, something like the overview page here goes some way to being an executive dashboard, which is what you would typically create for those people I just spoke about. But it's still, there's a lot of interactivity here, a lot of expectations on the user in terms of being familiar with where to find everything, in terms of how to actually investigate it. So sometimes for some people, they just want to know what's going on right now as opposed to what's happened historically. And that's where I find the automated reports very handy. This is the report I've built for this particular purpose. The reporting functionality has a lot of different options. You can, again, the file format is very flexible, so you can create a normal Excel CSV report, so you can create picture files or PDFs or even PowerPoints or Tableau files. You can export them to a few different sort of outlets. So we typically use emails because that's well, it's a good way of making sure they actually arrive to people, and it means that the people who receive it won't need to log in anywhere, as opposed to a few of these other options, so FTPs and Google Drive and Amazon, etc. So email is typically what we use for these sorts of reports, but you do have other options as well. And in terms of frequency, you can do that even hourly. If you really want to annoy someone, you can send them a report every hour, but typically weekly is the standard sort of frequency. But as you can see, daily, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, they're all available options. And if you do choose weekly, you can choose your day or week and even delivery hour. And you can kind of combine these in various ways if you want to. So it's very flexible in terms of creating reports. Now, the type of stuff that you want to include in a report might be different to what you want to include in a dashboard. Like I mentioned, first of all, this is going to come out as a PDF file, so there's not going to be any sort of interactivity. And second of all, like I mentioned, this will focus primarily on what's going on right now, because this will be a report going out, say, every week, and that means that you know, it'll typically be for people who need to know what's going on right now. We have about 10 different music labels included as our clients, and that's a world that moves very, very fast. So you'll have a lot of campaigns running all at the same time, and they change every week. So we deal with, you know, 50, 60 different reports that need to go out to people who need to know what's going on with those reports. They need to kind of get that into their inbox. So this is the example I've created for this particular purpose. And that will just, yeah, like I said, contain a quick summary of what's going on. So this is the book that I'm currently reading, how long I've been reading it for, how long it is. So that would be, you know, how long would it take to finish it. And again, when we translate this into real world terms and actually interesting data, this would be more stuff like basically campaigns that are live. This is how long we're planning to keep them on for. But also still the year-on-year stuff is still very handy. Like, how are we pacing versus our targets? How are we looking versus last year? And we can look at that on a monthly basis in a table, or on a weekly level in this chart, which is the same as we touched on earlier. And like there are quite a few benefits to this. Like one of them, I mentioned that it gives people the information that they need without having to log in anywhere and actually try to dig into the data themselves. The second is that this does keep the platform very much top of mind for people. So we do definitely experience that clients that receive regular reports into their inbox will be more engaged with their dashboards, because they're suddenly reminded that, oh, I have all this data at my disposal. I might go and look at it. Like if someone's interested in, okay, why has Simen read more books but fewer pages this year compared to last year? I want to go and drill into it. Obviously, they wouldn't in that particular instance, but something might be going on that they see in the report, and that triggers them to go into the dashboard. So it does really help with client engagement, and it does a great job of keeping them informed as well. It does. I've put in some bits that I think are interesting. So bits that are conditional for what's happening. So you see the little text string here. So after saying this is the book I'm reading for 2 days, it's only 135 pages, so it shouldn't be taking that long on this. This this string is conditional. So if the book was longer, we would get a different string, and that's one of the handy little features. So if we say, try to change that and say, pretend that the book is 535 pages instead of 135, we'll then need to refresh the data because the connection isn't a live one, as it were. You can set any data stream to refresh data and retrieve it at pretty much any frequency you want, up to hourly. So you can get the data stream to refresh every hour, but it's, like I said, it's not a live connection, so you do need the data to refresh before you actually see the changes within the platform. And we see last run date, that's now, so that's just been refreshed. And rather than run the report again, I'll just kind of show you in the actual dashboard, because an automated report is built like a dashboard page. You can just build it as a separate dashboard in the dashboard list. And because you can control what each user sees and what they don't have access to, you can just say, okay, the client just has access to this dashboard, this remains hidden, and only exists for the purposes of going out as an automatic report. Otherwise, the client won't see this. Yeah, like I said, built like a normal dashboard with the same sort of anatomy, with the exception of the interactivity, because it's going to be a static PDF file. So you're going to want to drop all filters and everything. But apart from that, you know, it's pretty much just a normal dashboard. And like I said, I just want to show you the handy little trick there, where you can actually get this text to change depending on one of the variables. Now it's changed from 135 pages to 535 pages. So the text has changed as well, saying so this will take a while. It's one of those handy little tricks that just kind of humanizes the report a little bit, which it's a bit individual how people prefer it, but it kind of gives people a certain human feel to the report when you put little bits of commentary in there like that, and in some cases makes it easier to interpret as well. When you just set certain thresholds and say, if it's beneath this threshold, then return this message. If it's above it, return this other message. So again, something that can be handy for executive dashboards and for automated reports. If you kind of need the information to be easily available, then you can just put something in there that basically interprets the information for them. Obviously, this is in a very basic way. It does have a lot. The automated report system does have a lot of very interesting capabilities. Like I mentioned the music label case that's very prominent for us, because we're looking at, you know, every week it's probably something like 60, 70 different artists that have released some song or album, which means that there's a lot of different things that need to be reported on, because each campaign typically lasts only for a few weeks, and the client need to be up to speed on what's going on with each of them, because campaigns are so short, so they do really need to be on top of it. So that was pre-Datarama. That was a big challenge for us to be able to sort of report properly on everything that was going on in an efficient way that made sense. And we have been able to integrate that now. We've used the something called the Harmonization Center in Datorama. I'm not going to go into big detail on that now. Might be something for another session. But if you're using Datorama, I very much encourage you to look into the Harmonization Center. It lives in connected Mixcare, and it has a few different functions. With a personal favorite is data classification, where you can basically create a dynamic lookup, which is extremely handy. But I'm not going to go into great detail now, other than saying that this very much helped us be able to create a system where every live artist gets a report page on how their activity is doing, and that then gets exported and sent out to the client. Sometimes on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis. That's depending on the client's needs. But yeah, ultimately the point is that that made life a lot easier for the planners and buyers of the campaign that would normally spend a lot of time on the reporting. And it's also a lot more convenient for the client to be receiving the reports like that. And they also aesthetically look a bit nicer than the sort of Excel spreadsheets that you would typically report on if you don't have a reporting platform like this. So that's one use case that we found it really handy to be able to use the automated reporting solution. And we still have dashboards for those clients. So there's no reason why dashboards and automated reports can't work in tandem. I think they work best when you're utilizing both options. But just keep in mind what problem you're trying to solve, what information is relevant, and would it be, like, in what cases would you expect the client to log in, look at the dashboard, and when would it be more convenient for them to just have it sent to their inbox. So yeah, that basically covers what I wanted to talk about. I suppose is it the discussion piece that's next? I don't know if anyone has any questions. Or
Thanks, Simen. That was great. We have like 15-20 minutes for Q&A. So for Q&A, everyone, if you want to speak and ask a question, just use the raise hand feature on the panel. Otherwise, you can type it in the chat. I have a couple of questions, if I can start, as I like to start usually. So this is Marketing Cloud, and we get a lot of tracking extract data from the send logs. Every send, every job, we know how many open, clicks, bounces, you name it. So the number one question you're going to be asked is, what's the difference between Datarama versus like Tableau, BI tool, or like Crystal Reports? I mean, what's the number one driver of using Datarama?
Yeah, I think certainly the flexibility in terms of input data. So I've worked a fair bit in Tableau as well. And whereas I'm a big fan of Tableau in terms of the visualization options, the way they're basically doing freeform. That's a very fun way to kind of visualize data. You do need to set up a lot of custom connections if you want to connect to Tableau. Whereas Datorama, you have many more inbuilt connections, so you can connect to data super easy. You also have the data blending options in Datarama that are much better than in Tableau. If you want to merge data sets in Tableau, that can get very messy very quick, unless you've done some sort of ETL on it first. As well as I would say the flexible output options as well. Like you probably do have some sort of way of setting up something like an automated report in Tableau. But as far as I know, you don't have the same abilities to kind of export that to like a Google Drive or send an automated email, etc. And yeah, that I haven't worked that much with Power BI, but the same sort of thing applies as far as I've from what I've seen. Datarama, it has more opportunities both in inputs and in terms of output, really.
Okay, that's great. Great summary. I don't see, there's a question here. I'll get to in 1 second. So here's another question, and it has to do with money. Now, a lot of my projects I work with, I'm dealing with customers or clients using Google Ads. They're paying for AdWords. They're doing Facebook campaigns. They're doing LinkedIn ads. So with Datarama, so I assume you can obviously connect your Google Analytics account, and you can connect your Google AdWords account. So you have those two sources, and it's hard for you to show because no one wants to show their real data with Google, right? No one wants to show you how much money you're spending for keywords. So how does Datarama really help you determine real time which campaign is running better let's say you have two ad campaigns, and one keyword is Manchester football tickets, and the other one is Man UTD tickets football. How do you know which ad's performing better, and how do you know which one in real time will be better for reporting purposes?
Yeah. So as a Liverpool fan, I would say whichever one drives the least sales of Man United tickets. But as a data analyst, I suppose I have to say that you can obviously set up a dashboard where you have whatever KPIs you have for the campaign and your measures of success and compare them side by side. We also Datorama has a functionality that I didn't even touch on now, which is called Einstein Marketing Insights, which is built for optimization purposes. So you can effectively just input some parameters like this is what I want to, these are the KPIs I want to use. These are the dimensions I'm able to change. And these are the constraints of the campaign. And Datarama will take a few hours, look at all the data that you have, and it will tell you exactly not only which campaigns are performing better, but when they're performing better, where they're performing better, and give you a whole host of insights in terms of how you can optimize campaigns as well as which campaigns are doing well. So yeah, so that answers the question.
Because I've seen time and time again, I've seen two different ads. One ad gets more clicks than the other ad, but the other ad gets better conversions. Just because you get more clicks doesn't mean you make more money. The ones you want are the ones who click and converted. So I'm wondering if every Monday morning you get an email report and you know which ad campaigns to pull out. Like if you're not performing on these ads, why are you spending money on ads, right? And that's kind of the thing I was hoping Datarama would really give me insight.
Yeah, I mean that's where the kind of human intelligence meets machine intelligence, right? So you obviously have to know what the criteria are, what your KPIs are. But as long as you're clear on, okay, clicks are great, but really I'm after conversions, then you can tell that to Datorama, and you can either run like I said, an Einstein marketing insight bot in which it goes into great detail about it. Or you can just set up a dashboard page where you sort all the campaigns by either conversions or by CPA if you want to look at efficiency. But yeah, you obviously require some sort of human insights there as well in terms of what we should be looking at as opposed to what the easy metrics are to analyze.
Perfect. Let's get to the questions in the chat here. So question number one. Someone is planning a Datarama certification program next week. What advice do you have where to start? What background knowledge do you need before starting this certification?
Okay, yeah, so that's a good question. Yeah, I think the sort of success center within Datarama, you have a lot of different resources, and I think specifically when you're going through the certification program, you're going to want to look at the videos because I've obviously taken a few of the certifications and the videos that are related to each certification. First of all, they cover everything in terms of what the certification requires, and second of all, they do give you a very good starting point in terms of being able to play with the data. So that's obviously individual how you learn. But I find I learn things a lot better when I'm actually playing with the platform. And I think that if you go to the Success Center and watch the videos on there, that gives you a good starting point, both in terms of understanding the theoretical knowledge and also knowing what to do in order to acquire the actual practical knowledge.
Yeah, I can answer that actually. Before the lockdown, the program to be Datarama certified was quite intense. It was at least 14 days spread over 6 weeks that you needed to commit, and there were 3 parts. One was the online course with an exam, and then there was a 3 or 4 day boot camp on site on premise, which obviously has now changed. And once you complete that, the part 3 was the assignment. You're given an assignment, a real case study that you had to complete. And when you add up all the time, it was at least 14 person days of work to commit. So unless you have resources on the bench who wants to learn this, it was very intense. It might have changed post lockdown in March, but I know the whole certification is quite big, and you need actually two people, not one person. One person has to be the solution architect, and the other person has to be the program manager. So as a company, you need two people, but that might have changed. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you have different levels of certification. I think what you're referring to there, Jameson, might be the partner program.
The accreditation, correct.
Yeah. Whereas you have some more basic, you have some more basic certifications that are basically, like I said, just watch a series of videos, play with the platform, and then you perform a series of tasks. So you get sent almost like an exam. You get like a data set, and you get told what you're meant to do with it. And based on your knowledge from what you saw in the videos and what you kind of learned from the platform, you perform those tasks, and then a while later you might pass or fail. Hopefully pass, obviously, and then that gives you I think at the moment that's an expert certification. But you also you have multiple levels of certification all the way up to what Jimson just spoke about.
Yeah. Technical question here, number 2. Can we send API data to Datarama at intervals as we receive it from any other software, providing we have the capability to post or patch from the original source?
Yes, is the short answer to that. You have, when you set up, and I might just share my screen again, just to show you what data stream looks like. You can set up a data stream, and let's just use a total connect, because that's pretty straightforward. And you have a couple of options in terms of push data and pull data. So in this case, if you want to push data, i.e. you have data existing on another platform, you want to put it into Datorama, you get these different options here. So you can do that by sending it to an email, to an FTP, but you also have a pull data option where you can deliver data through a series of different options, and you can build sort of custom. You can put in your custom API credentials here and get Datorama to basically go and retrieve the data whenever you want it to. So you have both that push and pull, as the terminology is. So that should, if you do have the API data and you need to put it into Datorama whenever you receive it, you should be able to do that, presumably, depending on what your setup is. Do that via either the push or the pull option. So yeah.
Okay, there's no other questions, but the last question I have is, can you confirm that it actually works with Pardot or Marketing Cloud?
Yes, we haven't used it with Pardot, but there are certainly Marketing Cloud APIs that was built up, and I just had a quick look. There's a Pardot API as well. So yeah, all the Salesforce products appear to be there. So you can, as long as you have the credentials, you can pull your data into Datorama from those other platforms.
Which is pretty interesting, because the Pardot API for the activity history is really poor. It's really, well, actually, poor is a very nice word to use, but to actually see all, how many web pages they went to, how many forms they submitted, what they clicked on, that you cannot get that out on API. So you can only see it through an iframe window in CRM. So if you can get that data with all the data from, say, Google Analytics or Google AdWords and stitch that together, man, you got a great reporting tool for marketing. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good question for Jess. I'll ask Jess that on our Pardot user group.
I had a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Just quickly, just in terms of, because I know that this is a classic, so I just feel the need to share it on. So if you do not work with an organization that already has Datarama, is it possible to get an environment or a way that you can learn or experiment with that tool?
Oh, I actually don't know that. To be honest, I suspect certainly in terms of if you want it in on a longer term basis, I think you definitely need to sign up for a license, or probably more realistically multiple licenses across the organisation. It could be that the guys at Datorama would let you have like a trial, but I'm not in a position to promise that on their behalf.
Okay, good to know. Just because it's a standard question, like within the CRM core platform, you can create a developer org and therefore people can learn the technology. Within Marketing Cloud, it is not possible to get one of those environments. So, and again, a tool such as Datarama, which is very powerful, but really relies on a lot of data being connected. I suppose it depends, like whether they allow you to have a free environment to learn in, depends on how much they can throttle it. In terms of what...
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I think if you have access to NTO retail, Datarama is included in that. Under App Exchange, I believe, the right App Exchange, Query Studio. So I believe you can see Datarama, well, dummy results if you have access to NTO, and it may be Cumulus. I'm not sure about Cumulus, but for sure it's NTO. Okay,
that's interesting to know. And again, Simen, in terms of the types of organisations that you find using this, is there a typical thing like? It's because they need to connect data across maybe 2 to 10 different platforms, or it's because they were reporting on a scale of, as the example you gave there was obviously an organization that reports very heavily and needs that in really close to real time. But typically with the organizations that you work with, what sort of size and scale are they, or industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. They will typically be larger clients that do work with that do require a lot of different data sources. We do offer it to our smaller clients as well, but if you don't spend that much on media, then there's less of an impetus to kind of be on top of it and know where everything is being spent. So it's typically bigger clients that spend more money, and oftentimes clients that have multiple different either different brands or just different subsections as well, and need to be able to compare them. So we work on entertainment clients across the gambling industry as well, with bookmakers, bingo brands, and casino brands all sitting in the same under the same umbrella. So those people will also need to will need to have all the data in the same place just to know what's going on. So it'll be a mix, because sometimes even smaller clients will want to have access to their data, because sometimes that's just what it boils down to. They want to be on top of it, and they want to be able to check in and see what's going on, and to be informed. So it's not restricted to smaller clients. Typically, we find that it's the bigger clients that have the bigger needs for it.
Yeah, but anybody who searches the internet knows that the UTM codes after URL has 5 UTM parameters: UTM, source, media, campaign. So everybody sees that ugly string. So any manager, VP, CMO would love to see a breakdown of all those 5 different parameters broken down by medium, source, campaign, so they can adjust their marketing effectively.
Yeah, of course. It has utility, I think, for anyone, any brand, and any organization within the sort of marketing space. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions from the audience? A lot of shy people here.
I think we are there with questions. So that all that remains is to thank everybody for their time. this evening, and to thank Simen for sharing us and talking through this session with us. If you found this particularly useful, then do let us know, and we can look to get maybe some more Datarama content. The recording will be available on YouTube. I shall endeavour to make that available within the next 24 hours, but soon. And again, thank you, Jimson, for the constant support and arranging these sort of meetings. And we hope to see you next time.